What if you could step inside someone else's mind? Not imagine it, literally live there. One day, a struggling puppeteer discovers a secret door in his office, and behind it lies a portal into actor John Malkovich's head. For 15 minutes, he sees, feels, and thinks exactly like him before being spit back out onto the side of a highway. But once others find out, obsession takes over. People pay anything to escape their own lives, even if it means stealing someone else's. And soon, the line between identity and insanity disappears.
The story begins with Craig Schwartz, a gifted puppeteer who struggles to turn his talent into a living. Though he dreams of artistic success, he barely earns enough to get by. At home, things aren't much better. His wife, Lotta, adores animals and has filled their apartment with pets: a dog, a cat, a bird, even a chimp. Their marriage is dull and distant. Lotta constantly pushes Craig to get a real job instead of wasting his time with puppets. One morning, Craig notices a newspaper ad for a file clerk position at a company called Lester Corp. He decides to apply. When he arrives, he discovers something strange. The office is on the 7th-and-a-half floor, where the ceilings are so low that everyone must stoop to walk. Inside, Craig meets the eccentric CEO, Dr. Lester, who greets him kindly and hires him on the spot, directing him to watch an orientation video. In the video, Craig learns that the building was constructed in the 1880s by Merton Flemmer for his wife, who was a little person. Because she often felt overlooked, he built the floor low to make her feel important. After the video ends, Craig looks around and notices a striking woman sitting nearby. He tries to talk to her, but she ignores him completely. The next day, Craig approaches her again and tries to flirt. He admits he doesn't even know her name or which department she's from. To break the ice, he proposes a guessing game. If he can guess her name, she must go out with him. Amused, she accepts, certain he'll fail. But after a moment of thought, he says, "Maxine." She's taken aback that he got it right. That evening, the two meet for drinks. Craig is visibly nervous and awkward, barely able to hold a conversation. Maxine assumes he's gay, but he insists he isn't and blurts out that he wants to sleep with her. Craig admits he's a puppeteer, which instantly turns her off, and she ends the date abruptly. Deflated, Craig returns home late and apologizes to Lotta. Later, he retreats to his workshop, crafting puppets of himself and Maxine. He then stages them in a romantic dance, ending with a kiss, a fantasy he can only bring to life through his art. The next day, Craig confesses to Maxine that he's fallen in love with her. He says he's never felt this kind of connection, not even with his wife. Maxine rejects him coldly, saying she'd never date a puppeteer. Heartbroken, Craig goes back to sorting files at his desk. When one folder slips behind a cabinet, he moves it and discovers a small hidden tunnel behind it. Furious, he crawls inside. The door shuts, and a powerful suction drags him forward. Moments later, Craig realizes he's seeing the world through someone else's eyes. The person walks through a house, approaches a mirror, and Craig gasps. He's inside the mind of famous actor John Malkovich. He watches as John leaves his home and gets into a car. Even the driver recognizes him and praises his work. For 15 minutes, Craig experiences life as the celebrity. Then, suddenly, he's spat out onto the side of a highway. Stunned, Craig races back to the office and tells Maxine what happened, that he somehow entered John Malkovich's mind. She doesn't believe him and thinks he's making it up just to impress her. That night, however, Maxine calls him. She's reconsidered and sees a business opportunity. She proposes that they charge people to experience being John Malkovich. Craig hesitates, worried it might be unethical, but finally agrees. Later, Craig tells Lotta about his discovery during dinner. Intrigued, she insists on trying it herself. Craig brings her to his office and lets her crawl into the tunnel. Instantly, Lotta finds herself inside John's body, experiencing his life firsthand. Overjoyed, she explores the feeling of living as someone else until she's thrown out 15 minutes later. landing by the freeway where Craig waits. Excited, Lotta begs to go again, but Craig refuses, reminding her they're already late for dinner with Dr. Lester. At the old man's house, they're greeted warmly and share a meal. When Lotta excuses herself to find the restroom, she wanders into a room filled with photos of John Malkovich covering every wall. Shocked, she later tells Craig on their way home, suspecting that Lester must somehow know about the portal. The next day, Craig and Maxine discuss placing an ad to attract paying customers. Unexpectedly, Lotta arrives at the office, surprising both of them. Craig is irritated, but he introduces her. Lotta excitedly explains how incredible the experience felt and declares that she now believes she's transgender. Furious, Craig mocks her, calling it nonsense, but Maxine intervenes and suggests letting Lotta use the portal again. Later, Maxine manages to get John Malkovich's private number and calls him, pretending to be a fan. She asks to meet that evening. John starts to hang up but stops when she quickly gives him the time and restaurant name. Curious, he agrees. Meanwhile, Lotta, inside John's head, learns about the date and asks Craig to take her to the tunnel at 8 p.m. without explaining why. That night, John meets Maxine, instantly captivated by her charm. Inside his mind, Lotta is also mesmerized and realizes she's attracted to Maxine. Maxine senses it but doesn't resist. After 15 minutes, Lotta is ejected from the portal and drives home with Craig. The next day, Craig and Maxine receive their first customer, an overweight, insecure man who eagerly pays $200 to experience being John Malkovich. Meanwhile, Maxine grows closer to the couple and later visits their home for dinner. After that confession, Maxine leaves, leaving Craig and Lotta speechless. Over the following days, Maxine begins a relationship with John. During their encounters, she even calls him Lotta. John senses something odd but ignores it, not wanting to lose her. Meanwhile, Craig sinks into jealousy and despair, realizing that both women in his life are in love, just not with him. One evening, when Lotta returns home, Craig accuses her of betrayal. In a rage, he ties her up and forces her to call Maxine to arrange a meeting through John. Terrified, Lotta obeys, but Craig locks her inside a cage with their chimp afterward. Then he enters the portal himself. He gets carried away, whispering commands to John during the act. The bizarre behavior alarms John, who begins to suspect something supernatural is happening to him. After the encounter, Craig returns home thrilled and boasts to Lotta about making love to Maxine. Elsewhere, John meets his friend to discuss what's been happening. He explains that lately, he feels like someone else is controlling his body, and it all started when he met Maxine. His friend laughs it off, thinking John might just be high, but John grows convinced that Maxine is involved in something unnatural, maybe even witchcraft. Later, John shows up at Maxine's workplace, only to find a long line of strangers waiting. They claim they're there to be John Malkovich. Confused and frightened, John cuts the line to see what's going on. But when people recognize him, chaos breaks out. He storms inside and confronts Maxine, accusing her of playing with his life. She calmly tells him to try the portal himself if he doesn't believe her. Ignoring Craig's warnings that it could be dangerous, John enters the tunnel. Suddenly, he finds himself in a bizarre version of reality. A restaurant where everyone looks exactly like him, and every person can only say one word: Malkovich. Horrified, John screams, and moments later, he's ejected onto the freeway, landing beside the stunned Craig. Furious, John demands that Craig shut the portal forever. But Craig refuses, saying it's his livelihood now. John threatens legal action, but Craig isn't worried. He knows how to control him. Meanwhile, Lotta is still trapped in the cage, but her chimpanzee senses her distress and manages to free her from the ropes. Overwhelmed, she hugs the animal in tears, then immediately calls Maxine to tell her everything. She explains that Craig has imprisoned her and reveals that it was actually Craig, not her, who's been inside John making love to Maxine. To Lotta's surprise, Maxine doesn't react with anger. Instead, she admits she's impressed by how well Craig managed to manipulate John's body, which breaks Lotta's heart. She thought Maxine loved her. Maxine confesses that she does, but also admits she's confused and doesn't know what she truly wants. Later, Maxine visits John again. He tries to avoid her, but Craig is now fully in control of John's body. Using his puppeteering skills, Craig makes John's movements precise and graceful, showing Maxine how he can manipulate him completely. The two then make love, and Craig explains that he's figured out how to stay inside John permanently without being ejected. They agree that he'll live as John from now on, and they can both enjoy wealth and fame together. At the same time, a devastated Lotta visits Dr. Lester and confides everything. The old man isn't shocked. He calmly reveals that he already knows about the portal. In fact, he is the original Merton Flemmer, the man who built the building. He explains that for years, he and his close circle of friends have used the portal to transfer their consciousness into other bodies to achieve immortality. John Malkovich, he says, is their next host. Lester warns Lotta that on John's 44th birthday, the portal will no longer lead into John's mind but into a new consciousness, one where anyone entering will be trapped forever as a helpless observer. He takes her to a hidden room filled with elderly people, all preparing for the transfer. 8 months later, Craig is still inside John Malkovich's body. He's married to Maxine, who is now pregnant. Over this time, Craig has turned John's acting career into a wildly successful puppeteering venture, winning awards and praise. Outwardly, everything seems perfect. But Maxine appears distant and unhappy, still missing Lotta. One evening, Craig returns home after a performance celebrating his upcoming 44th birthday. When he learns that Maxine is missing, panic sets in. He soon receives a call from Dr. Lester, who demands that he vacate John's body or they will kill Maxine. Terrified, Craig refuses. Without John, he'd lose everything. Meanwhile, Maxine has been captured by Lester's group and Lotta. When Craig hangs up on Lester, Lotta becomes enraged. In a fit of jealousy, she tries to kill Maxine, shouting that if she can't have her, no one will. To survive, Maxine escapes into the portal, and Lotta follows with a gun in hand. Inside John's subconscious, they travel through his memories. After the journey, they're ejected into the ditch once again, where Lotta catches up and points her gun. Before she can shoot, Maxine blurts out the truth. Lotta is the parent of her unborn child. She explains that the baby was conceived during one of their encounters when Lotta was inside John. The revelation softens Lotta, and she lowers her weapon. The two women embrace, confessing their love for each other. At that moment, Craig arrives, having decided to abandon John's body to save Maxine. He steps out of the tunnel and sees the two women reunited. He tries to tell Maxine that he gave up everything for her, but she turns away. Without a word, she and Lotta leave together in a car, leaving Craig alone. Elsewhere, Dr. Lester and his elderly friends prepare to enter the portal themselves, taking permanent residence inside John Malkovich's mind before it shifts to a new host. The story fast-forwards 7 years. Maxine and Lotta are now married, living happily with their young daughter, Emily. But a dark twist remains. Craig's consciousness is trapped inside Emily's mind. After trying to re-enter the portal years ago, he arrived too late and became stuck in the next consciousness forever. Now he can't speak, move, or escape. He can only watch silently as Maxine and Lotta live their lives through the eyes of their child, forced to witness their happiness for eternity.